Okay, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Let me not keep you any longer again. Well, I never did introduce myself, but hi, everyone. My name is Valerie Hope, and I'm the marketing manager at Affinity Plus Credit Union. And on behalf of my credit union and my team, I want to give you all a warm welcome to today's webinar on Let's Talk Mental Health Coping Strategies for Stress. And this is part of our Smart Choice webinar series. And this is a series that we've started over the last couple of years. We want to be seen as a credit union that, kind of looks at all aspects of the well-being of our members. And so, while I guess it would make sense that we tackle financial topics, which we do, we also like to kind of throw into the mix, just different kind of informative and inspiring sessions on things that we think can add some additional value to the lives of our members and beyond. And the reason I say beyond is I'm fully aware that some of you are not members of our credit union. We do host these sessions free, and we do encourage other persons to come on board and participate. Maybe by the end of the evening, we may have kind of engaged enough of you and or engaged you enough that you may be interested in signing up to be a member of our credit union. Now, before I get into the meat of the matter, in terms of what we're discussing this evening, let me just share a few quick housekeeping notes. So we are recording the webinar this evening, and we will definitely be sharing the webinar with you and all the persons who would have registered. So you should hopefully receive that within a few days of this webinar. Um, Typically speaking, we do ask you to stay muted during the presentation unless you're, asking a question, and in which case we ask you to raise your hand, and we'll have one of our team. I will call you, or we'll have one of our team members call you, just so that we can, avoid the kind of the background noise that can sometimes impact, the presenter's speech, and also makes it a little difficult for the persons to kind of hear what's going on. So if you have any questions, we just encourage you again, please just raise your hand or drop a comment or a question in the chat as well if you are shyer and don't want to speak up. And again, we'll have one of our team members pose the questions to this evening's featured speaker. Now, really quickly, because I am aware that some of you may not be familiar with our credit union, and I think I'll be doing a disservice to the credit union if I didn't at least share a little bit of information about who we are. So, Affinity Plus Credit Union, we are the one of the largest credit unions in Barbados. We currently have a membership that's almost 35,000. We've been in operation since 1983, so we're actually just over 40 years old. We would have rebranded. We've gone through a major rebranding and repositioning exercise in 2024, and we would have changed our name and our outlook in April of that year. And so we are now Affinity Plus Credit Union, which was, hopefully you're familiar with the brand now, and we've been peeking out a little bit more in market. But just to give you context, that we are not just a new credit union, but we've been around for many years, and we have a solid foundation. In fact, we currently have over $230 million in assets, and we are excited about the growth opportunities. We currently have locations in Bridgetown, Spicetown, and Oistins. And if you're not a member, we invite you to, consider joining our credit union. I guess closer to the end of today's webinar, I'll share how you can, stay connected with us. And certainly, even as you're thinking about becoming a member, we invite you to connect with us, to follow us, and so that you hopefully can also benefit from the services and products that we offer. Now, for tonight's main event. Now, stress, I'm sure, as most of you who have been drawn into the topic and agreed to sign up and come and learn a little bit more, it's really become, unfortunately, part of our daily lives. Whether it's dealing with work, whether it's dealing with family, finances, certainly even personal challenges. And while we know some stress, sometimes stress can be a good thing. It gives us a little bit of a pickup and kind of powers us in terms of doing things. But we do understand that too much of it can also take a major toll on both our mental and physical well-being. So that's why we're having this conversation. That's why it's so important. So learning how we can manage stress effectively can really help to, improve our overall health, our productivity, and even our relationships. So today we are really fortunate to have Ms. Simone Lewis. She is a counseling psychologist and founder of Phoenix Counseling Services. And she is excited and geared up to share some valuable insights and strategies to help us, I guess, manage and navigate stress in a much more healthier way. Now, just to give you a little context in terms of who Simone is, she has an MSc in counseling psychology, and she's very passionate about supporting individuals through life's challenges. So, helping them to navigate transitions, build resilience, and generally improve their overall well being. So, in addition to her private practice, so yes, if you need a little support, you can contact her directly and schedule some sessions. But in addition to the private practice she runs, she's also a general advocate for mental health awareness and education, sorry. And that has led her to create a new and exciting podcast called We Need to Talk. And this podcast explores the intersection of mental health and everyday life. And if that is not enough, she's also the author of a workbook called Transitions, which is designed to help children navigate the shift from primary to secondary school. And it identifies issues such as emotions, peer pressure, and self confidence. So, all around, Simone is making sense and doing some great things. So, without further ado, let me let Simone take over the floor, and we're excited to hear her presentation today on coping strategies for stress. So, Simone, over to you.
Okay, hi everyone. My name is Simone, as I was just introduced. I have a short presentation. It's more so to start the discussion. So what I'm presenting, what you're going to see on your screens is to open up discussion. So I'll be defining stress, talking about why stress exists. If you see me looking over, I'm looking at my notes. Um, I'll give a couple suggestions for coping strategies for stress, but I think we all, like in my practice, I am a client-centered type of therapist, which just means that I think you pretty much have your answers yourself. I just am guiding you to help discover the answers. I might nudge in a direction or nudge in another way, but helping give you a perspective while you come up. So I think that with the numerous participants that are here, we can all come up with some other coping strategies, but I am just here to start the conversation and then get the ball rolling while we share with each other. So first, what is stress? Stress, I have like 3 different definitions. So you could take whichever definition resonates with you. The Merriam-Webster definition is stress is a state of mental tension and worry caused by problems in your life, work, etc. And it can also refer to physical force or pressure on something. Okay. Psycho the psychology definition. In psychology, stress is the body and mind's response to demands or threats. It involves psychological, emotional, and behavioral changes, activating the body's fight or flight response when faced with challenging situations. Now, I obviously more so relate to this definition because I'm a counseling psychologist. So the way I see stress, it really has to do with things that you would consider stressors. Not all of them are going to be threats, but we'll get into that in a minute. And then the layman's definition, what everybody kind of could say stress is. Stress is a feeling of being overwhelmed, worried, unable to cope with life's demands. Now, why does stress exist? Stress exists is the body's way to have like a natural response to these challenges and stresses, right? The fight or flight response, adapting to demands, maintaining homeostasis, emotional and psychological processes. Now, those are a lot of big words, so I can break that down for you. So the survival mechanism, the fight or flight. When the brain perceives a threat, we have something called the amygdala. It's right at the bottom of our brain, if you could picture a brain, and it signals to the hypothalamus, another part of our brain, to activate the sympathetic nervous system. So our sympathetic nervous system, like it controls, I would say, emotions, reactions, feelings. Like that's how we can picture it if we had to break it down. So when the amygdala signals to the hypothalamus, it triggers a release of stress hormones like adrenaline and cortisol, and it increases your heart rate, sharpens your focus, boosts energy to deal with the challenge. So if we can imagine being attacked by an animal, our response is usually, okay, we're going to fight if we think that we are bigger than the animal and we can fight our way out of the situation, or we might try to run away from the situation. Our brain has a natural response that will cue whatever it is that we are going to do in that situation. So some people will fight, some people will run away. Some people might even freeze. So as the years go on, that whole fight or flight, people fight, fawn, freeze, fight, flight. Like people keep adding on F's for it. um, with freezing, your body kind of like shuts down and you freeze some um, prey, predator versus prey. So some prey have the natural response to freeze to give the illusion that they're not there, because some predators, when you like some of their senses aren't as sharp as, I'll say, some of the prey. So they will freeze so that that animal, let's say a alligator, their eyes are on their sides, and or like a shark, the eyes are on their sides. So when you're in front of it, it's more difficult. Like they can still see you from far away, but it's more difficult up close to see the way that a human would see, or a smaller different type of fish would see. And therefore, in some cases, like if you are in a survival situation with a shark, there are some sharks that you can kind of like hit their nose and disrupt their vision and they swim away. Don't quote me on that, but that's nature information. But I'm not a microbiologist. I don't deal with fish. So that one is just my experience of learning that information. But in those stress situations, our body has its natural response of how to survive. That's what the whole survival mechanism, fight or flight response in terms of stress means. The adaptation to demands. Stress helps the body adapt to new or demanding situations. Short-term stress can improve performance, motivation, problem-solving abilities. So we can think of this one as every day when we are at work and our boss brings up a situation that they want us to handle, a new task. We get stressed about it. It's a natural response. So we will get stressed about it. It might not necessarily register as stress because we tend to put a negative connotation to stress, but we do have that response of stress where our body will say, okay, I'm feeling the pressure to do this task, to complete this task because I've been asked to complete this task. And if we feel like we are equipped to handle it, we will then complete the task. So it helps us, motivates us to do the task. Or if we feel like if it might be a stretch for us, it kind of motivates us to want to improve our performance so that we do try to solve the problem that is in front of us. So that's how we adapt to the demands in terms of stress. Maintaining homeostasis. The body constantly adjusts to maintaining balance. Stress levels when something is out of balance prompt prompting action to restore stability, whether it's dealing with physical pain, emotional pressure, or environmental changes. So this one I will talk about a little bit later with anxiety and burnout. Our body has its own natural reactions, responses to put us back in balance when we're doing too much, when we're exerting ourselves a bit too much. So when we've stared at a screen for way too long, we'll get a headache. When we are struggling with the amount of work that we have at work, we can feel burnt out. You can feel exhausted, tired, you feel like if you need to get sleep, rest. So that's your body's way of telling you that you're stressed out and you need to relax. Emotional and psychological processing. Stress can also be a sign that emotions need to be processed. So we tend to keep our emotions bottled up. We don't like to share, we don't like to express ourselves because especially in the Caribbean, and we're taught, oh, you shouldn't have those feelings, no crying, no, or well, I should say we get angry, but the sadness, we have to pretend that we're okay. If we're stressed out, if we're tired, we bottle it up. We don't let other people see what's going on with us. So stress and the physical ways that stress can be represented will be a sign to tell us you have emotions that you need to process, and you should talk to someone, talk to a friend, talk to a professional like me. um Getting it out, sometimes even journaling, so writing down what is going on in your head, what's been going on throughout your day, how you're feeling, if you don't feel comfortable speaking to somebody. Feeling stressed about a relationship or a job or a personal goal or unresolved issues, those are the types of emotional and psychological processing that we need to let out, because those things, you can imagine a bottle. If we keep pouring liquid into this bottle, eventually it's going to overflow. Emotional processing, psychological processing is our way of pouring it out ourselves without it overflowing on us. So we are taking precautionary measures to make sure that we are balanced, we are not stressed, we are not burnt out, we're not anxious, we are handling the struggles that are coming our way one at a time, and handling it in a way that our body, our mind can handle it, if that makes sense. So while short-term stress can be helpful, like like I said earlier, adapting to demands like at work when it helps to promote motivation, helps you to complete activities, short-term stress in that sense is not a negative thing. We all need to have that stress. We all need to have that balance of this helps me to do things. If not, we would just sit on the couch all day and do nothing. We have no reason to get up. We have no reason to pay bills. Like bills is a stressor. If you take it on too much, then it becomes a long-term stress, which can be a chronic stress, which is unmanaged stress. And that can be harmful because it will lead to health issues, burnout, anxiety, depression, high blood pressure, weakening of the immune system. I don't know if you guys notice that when you get extremely stressed, first you start to get tired, exhausted, and then you get colds repeatedly. Just keep getting colds, and you're like, why am I getting sick so often? It's because you're stressed and you're not managing it well. So managing stress is an effective way to work on your overall well-being. Okay, so now that we have a little bit of an understanding about stress, I want to take you guys through something called the spoon theory. So hold on to that information that we just had, the definition of why it exists and all that. Hold on to that for a second. And let's explore the spoon theory that was created by Christine Miserandino. That's always a mouthful for me to say. And I know that this recording is going to be posted to you later, so you can write it down now. She has a video explaining it herself, and I think it's a 13-minute video of her describing what her spoon theory is. I will give a explanation myself, but I feel like if it's always good to see like the originator's definition of it, because it's slightly different, because in her definition, she was explaining her energy limitations for chronic illness. And I usually use it to explain depression or any other mood disorder that usually comes with like chronic fatigue. With Christine, sorry, her illness was lupus, or is lupus. She's still alive. So with lupus, she was explaining to a friend what it is like to function with lupus. So she was at a diner when she was explaining this to her friend, and she collected a bunch of spoons and she gave her friend these spoons. And she was able to show that every activity that she does during a day costs a certain amount of spoons. So it's for the visual learners. If it's a big activity, it will cost more spoons than if it's a smaller activity. So we could put energy, 1 spoon equals 1 unit of energy. A little bit of math. We're not mathing very much, but a little bit of math. So at the start of the day, you have a certain amount of spoons. Now, this varies for everyone. What you wake up with will vary based on what happened the day before, what if you're sick, where your mental state is at. It varies. However, throughout the day, how you spend the spoons is kind of like set almost. And I'll explain a little bit more as we go. But and then I'll relate it back to stress. So we'll start with simple tasks like getting out of bed. For somebody with a chronic illness or somebody who's extremely fatigued, getting out of bed is going to cost more spoons than for somebody who isn't. So it might cost 5 spoons. Some days you start with fewer spoons, and therefore, when you have your list of tasks that you have to do, I'll put it on the screen in a visual way in a minute, but try to follow with the little explanation that I'm giving now. Um, with the daily tasks, let's say you're a healthy person, functioning adult. You're at your peak. You start out with, I think this is 15 spoons. Yeah, 15 spoons. You get out of bed, that costs 1 spoon. You take a shower, that costs 1 spoon. You make breakfast, that costs another spoon. Go to work, spoon. Doing other stuff, spoon. Going to the gym, spoon. Doing other stuff like socializing, spoon. Socializing. Doing other stuff. And then you're tired and you go to bed. But that also costs a spoon. Versus somebody with a mental illness, chronic illness, fatigue, lupus, physical illnesses, shower, that costs 4 spoons. So maybe no shower today because I don't want to use up my 15 spoons. Like deduct 4 spoons with just one single task at the beginning of the day. Do I have breakfast? That's going to cost 3 spoons. Now, for the person who was high functioning, great energy, it only cost them 1 spoon. But I'm breaking it down to be I have to go to the kitchen. I have to look in the fridge, see what's there. I have to take out things. I have to cook them. I have to clean up after myself. So breakfast on a whole takes a lot more energy because for someone who has chronic illnesses, mental illnesses, and extreme fatigue, we think about every single thing it takes to complete a task. It might not occur to everyone, but when you're looking at it, for some people, it does take more. So we won't do breakfast. Now, work, we have to go to work. So that's going to take 5 spoons regardless because that's a non negotiable. We have to pay the bills, we have to do things. For some people with various illnesses, we can't go to work. But for the purposes of this example, we're going to say non negotiable. Lunch. I didn't eat breakfast, so now I have to have lunch. Even if my company provides lunch for me, I still have to walk to wherever it is. I still have to take up food. I still have to sit there and eat it. I might have to socialize with people because there's a lunchroom. And even though I want to be by myself, people are coming to bother me. So it's taking 3 spoons to get through this aspect. And we're not thinking about that. Now, the rest of the day, have lots of work, lots of emails, lots of meetings. Spoons are just going left, right. By the end of the day, you're so exhausted that you can't function enough to sleep, like to go to bed. You might end up on a couch because that's the closest thing to the door. You might not eat dinner because you have to shower this time because you didn't shower earlier. You might eat dinner, but it might not look like the healthy dinner that everyone wants it to be. This person's just on the floor, just struggling. So, how does this relate to stress? We can put it with stress as in when we run out, when we're exhausted, when we're irritated, when we're emotionally drained, we can look at that as chronic stress. Now, at the beginning of that example, I said the high functioning person, it only takes them one spoon to do everything. But even high functioning people have bad days, have low spoon days, as we'll call it. And they start out with less spoons, or it takes more spoons to do certain activities. And therefore, by the end of the day, so for the high functioning person at the end of that example, they still have 3 spoons left. So they were going to bed, but they weren't completely exhausted. They weren't completely drained. When the lower functioning person went to bed, they had no more spoons left because they had other things that they had to do to complete the task. And stress affects how many spoons you start the day with and how quickly you will lose them. Because remember, 1 spoon is one amount of energy, 1 unit of energy. And if you're under constant stress, whether it's from work, whether it's from relationship or personal struggles, you might start the day with fewer spoons and make it harder to cope. So high stress, mm, high stress, fewer spoons to begin with. Chronic stress drains your energy, reserves over time. So let's get to the reserves. You can take spoons from other days. Because if I start out with 15 spoons, I can't create spoons out of nowhere, but I can borrow a spoon from the day that comes after. I can do that. But then if I think about that, the day after, if I was to start out with 15 spoons, now only has 14. With chronic stress, with all the fatigue and the mental illness, you have to think about how you borrow from your reserves, as it may be. If I keep taking from the future, there's going to be a day where I'm crashing. So you'll find yourself on the weekend not being able to move, not being able to do extra activities, just being so exhausted that all you want to do is lay in bed and sleep. And Monday seems to come super fast. That's because you've borrowed the spoons days before and now it's catching up with you. So like how I was talking a little bit earlier about the chronic stress turning into burnout, it's you borrowed so many spoons before that now you have a day, a week, a month where your body is in its survival mode, fighting to function, fighting to even do simple tasks. Because the more tired you get, the more energy, the more spoons you have to use to do a task. Stressful situations, using up spoons faster, dealing with difficult tasks or emotional challenges can consume more spoons than usual, making you feel more exhausted more quickly. Not enough recovery, no way to replenish the spoons. If you don't engage in self care or stress management, your spoons don't replenish, leading to burnout, as I just mentioned. So, how do we cope with the stress? So, managing stress is about being intentional with stress. How you use, how you replenish your spoons. So, there's ways to get more spoons, or there's ways to conserve the amount of spoons that you use. So, in energy conservation, we are spoon saving. We can look at prioritizing tasks. Identifying what truly needs your energy and letting go of non-essential stressors. It's very difficult sometimes to put priorities in order. If you have kids, if you have a demanding job, if you want to go to the gym to exercise, if you want to eat healthy, and especially lately, how the supermarkets have been out of everything, you have to go to three supermarkets to get all of the things that you need to get for it to be the healthiest version of what you could possibly. So there's so many things that are taking your time, taking all of your energy, but you have to put them in a list of what is the most crucial, what is the most demanding for you, and what needs to be focused on. So I would say with my example of the lower functioning person. Now, it might seem to a higher functioning person, ew, you didn't shower today, or you're not eating breakfast. And that judgment comes with not understanding that it takes a lot, and that person is prioritizing what they need to. So, as you saw, work was non negotiable for them, and therefore they had to put that first. That was how they prioritize their tasks. They showered later in the day and they ate lunch because they didn't have breakfast. So, managing it in that way and prioritizing those tasks help them to use the amount of spoons that they were given at the beginning of the day in a beneficial way. Setting boundaries and saying no to things that drain your spoons unnecessarily. Now, if we were to look at, let's say, a wheel of life, just imagine a circle, and we have different areas and aspects of our life. We have family, we have career, we have finances, we have spirituality, if you're a spiritual person. We have health, whether that's mental, exercising, romantic relationships. So there's so many different aspects of life, and you can only give so much to each category. It feels like if we have so much that we can't possibly give a fair amount to each section. However, if we balance it and set boundaries for ourselves, we can give a balanced distribution of our energy and our time. So saying no to things is like, if I have a party that I can go to, I ask myself, is this something that is worth missing? Is this going to take more spoons than necessary? So I can possibly gain spoons from going out and partying. That sounds a little bit questionable, but if I'm a social person, if I'm an extrovert and being social replenishes spoons, then I will go out because that's what I need to do to, as like a self-care, as a building me back up when I am low. If going out drains my energy, I wouldn't go out, because even though people might pressure me to go out, it wouldn't make sense because that will just take more spoons, and I wouldn't be able to function for the next couple of days because I'm using spoons on an event that I don't even care about. Now, self-care, rest, activities like deep breathing, mindfulness, getting adequate sleep helps to restore spoons. I know that we are going so fast paced most of the time, we don't have a second to just stop and take a couple breaths and be mindful and grateful for the life that we have, the energy that we have right now, the fact that we're sitting, that we have internet, that we're on this call, and also not resting at night. We're so stressed out that our brain just keeps ticking and ticking and ticking, and we find it hard to sleep. And then we're not getting a good quality sleep because we're not winding down. We're on our phones until our eyes shut instead of doing a sleep routine where you have your bath, maybe have some tea if you're a tea person, light a candle, wind down, talk to someone who's next to you if that helps. Read a book. Like if scrolling on your phone helps you, not doom scrolling, just scrolling, watching videos, then doing that as your routine to wind down can help your brain to understand, okay, it's rest time, and this is a time where I get to restore some of my energy. Also, asking for support. We often don't like to ask for support, but we can share spoons. If we if we have extra spoons, you can give to someone else. And if you need extra spoons, you can always ask someone to help you because it's necessary in that moment. We want to help each other, or we should want to help each other. You shouldn't just be struggling in silence and having no one know what's going on with you. Express that you're stressed out. Talk, let it out. Like how I was saying at the beginning, if you keep it bottled up, it will overflow eventually. So, how do we get more spoons? Quality sleep, healthy food, hydration, physical activity, relaxation techniques. These are things that will help restore energy. At certain times, it might feel like if it's taking energy, because like I said, you have to buy the healthy food, remembering to drink your water, doing the physical activity can be like at the end of the day, I'm so exhausted from work. I don't feel like if I can do more. But sometimes the physical activity can release the hormones that are necessary for your body to actually help you in the long run. So in the short term, it might feel like I'm super tired, I don't want to do this. But in the long run, it's beneficial for you. And then I would have just talked about having a nighttime routine for relaxation. So, a little bit of self reflection. What activities help you feel recharged? If anybody wants to share. Okay, I can't see the chat right now, so I don't know if anyone is. Anybody?
I have you covered, Simone. I'm looking
Okay.
to see.
What helps
Don't be
you
shy.
feel
Well, maybe I'll get the ball rolling. I mean,
meditation? Mhm.
yeah, well, I'm
Faith
not good
based
meditating.
meditation.
Okay. Yeah, that's a good
Time
one.
with pets. Yes, I don't know if y'all can hear my dog outside. He's usually inside with me, so he's a bit upset. Going to the beach, I love that one. That one is really soothing sometimes, especially when you go in the water, you're just relaxing, listening to music, going for walks. Those are all very good coping strategies for stress. Mhm. So we can have a personalized spoon management plan. We talked about what drains my spoons? What do I need to say no to? What restores my spoons? Like all the things that y'all are saying in the chat. How can I better manage my spoons? Do I need to prioritize tasks? Do I need to ask for help? How do I adjust my schedule to be beneficial for me so that I'm balancing the amount of energy that I need to give, getting back the energy that I need, and creating it for yourself? So it would be beneficial for you all whenever you have the time to sit down and ask yourself these questions to really understand yourself and why you're stressed. It's easy to see a bunch of coping strategies and to watch as many videos and to get as many examples. But if you don't understand yourself and if you aren't breaking it down for you and just trying to copy somebody else's strategies, it's not going to be as beneficial to you. So I can give a personal example. I like to watch videos on YouTube of 5 a.m. morning routines. And these people do 5 million things at 5 a.m. They're up, they're meditating, they're doing exercise, they're doing yoga, they're writing in their journal, they're planning their day. By 8 a.m., they've had an entire day. As somebody who struggles with illness and fatigue, waking up at 5 a.m. is not realistic for me. Something like most days to do all of that. By the time I'm done that, I want to go back to bed. And it's only 8 a.m. and I haven't gone to work. I haven't watched my dog. I haven't done anything. So me trying to copy that video exactly isn't beneficial for me. And I'm beating myself up and thinking that I'm not doing enough or I'm not enough when it just isn't for me. So instead of me giving you a list of, I mean, I can give examples and you guys have given examples already, but instead of me giving a long list and you trying to make that work for you, thinking to yourself and asking yourself these questions to help create your own plan for your needs can be very, very beneficial and help with coping strategies. So I talked longer than I thought I was going to talk, but no, we can open up. If you guys have any questions, let's discuss.
Thank you for that, Simone. So just to remind, if you have a question, you can certainly raise your hand just so we can manage who's speaking at any given time and just pose your question directly to Simone. Alternatively, if you feel a little shyer, you can type your question in the chat and we will look for the question and pose it to Simone. Do we have any takers?
I have said a lot, guys. That spoon theory was a lot to take in. So I'm sure you guys have some clarification questions.
All right. Well, they ponder on all that wonderful information you shared, Simone. I have a question for you. Oh, wait, we
Oh,
have a hand raised. So I'm
mhm.
going to defer. So, Lucretia, Paul, you can unmute and ask your question.
Hi, good night. My
Good
question is
night.
how important it is to have, when you were talking about a nighttime routine, I was kind of
Mhm.
reflecting on what I do, and I realized that it's possible why I might feel tired because I'm not probably winding down the way that I should, I think, based on what you're saying, what you
Yeah.
said.
Um, I I think with nighttime routines, we usually see sleep as just closing our eyes and going to sleep. But there's much more to rest than just closing your eyes and going to sleep. And even if you wear a watch monitor or like the Apple Watches that tell you how deep you're sleeping, your REM sleep, etc. When you look at some of those things, they will tell you, okay, you're not getting that deep of sleep. You're not getting restful sleep. Therefore, when you're waking up, you're feeling exhausted and you're sleeping for long periods of time, but you're thinking, okay, why am I not feeling rested? Our circadian rhythm, when the sun rises, when the sun sets, our body goes with that. So that's why we need like vitamin D and going out inside of the sun and kind of like plants, photosynthesis. And then when the sun sets, we have laptops, phones that have blue screens, and our brain gets tricked into thinking that it's still daytime, that we're still supposed to be functioning. So even though we're tired, even though we're exhausted, we're not actually resting. Our brain is still thinking about the things that are going on, especially if we are on TikTok or YouTube or scrolling or watching TV. So it's usually recommended that half an hour to an hour before you actually go, like try to go to sleep, you turn those things off. Sometimes you can get a lamp that is yellow light, or there are some lamps that have settings where it will do like a sunset. So it will change from being super bright to dimmer and getting your body cued in that I'm getting ready to rest. Getting ready to go to sleep. The reason I said tea When you feel warm and cozy, your body is like, okay, I want to rest, I want to lie down. Things like journaling, processing what happened throughout the day so that your brain doesn't continue to think about them. Saying, oh, I felt this happened, I didn't like how this thing was. What are my thoughts? Perhaps prepping for the next day so you feel more prepared. You've processed the day and you're ready to process another one. Meditating, so just listening to some music or actually listening to a guided meditation. Setting the mood to go to sleep, kind of romancing ourselves into going to sleep. Settling down can be very beneficial. So that's why I do recommend sleep routines, because it's very helpful. It takes a while to get there. You will find that, okay, I do this for one day, I still feel waking up feeling tired. But that's why it's a routine. Setting these standards for yourselves helps you to get more quality sleep over time. I don't know if that was helpful for you.
Yes, it was. I think I have to treat myself like a baby.
Yeah. Yep.
We have a question from the chat, Simone,
Okay.
and trying to see who it is. But the question is, how do you recommend balancing working hard towards goals and making time to slow down, both not getting things done and overdoing it, which can be stressful?
Okay. So
And that was from
I
Faith.
would
Mhm.
I would say setting realistic expectations and planning with a literal planner, setting out times for both things. So let's start with the expectations first. With realistic expectations, we tend to set goals. Sky's the limit. However, we're not putting it in a time frame that's realistic for us. There's something called SMART goals. Typing that. You can Google it on your free time, but it's having a specific goal. So taking a goal that you have and breaking it down into specific tasks for that goal. So let's say I want to save $10,000 by the end of the year. That's a big goal. Breaking it down and saying, how can I save that amount of money? How much money do I make? How much money can I save a month, a week, a day? Looking at things like that and measuring. So how will I measure over time? That's what the M is for, measurement. How can I measure these specific things? How will I know that I'm achieving my goal over time? A is also achievable. Are these goals achievable? R is realistic. If I'm trying to remember off the top of my head. Is this goal realistic? So is it achievable? Can I achieve it in the time frame? T is time. Can I achieve it in the time frame? Is it realistic? Is it valuable and relevant to my life? R can also stand for relevant. The time frame that I've set, is it too small or is it too big? If it's too big, we tend to procrastinate and push it back and push it back and push it back. And then we find ourselves scrambling. If it's too short, we burn ourselves out trying to achieve this goal. So the balance would come with, if you're a planner type person, writing down on the planner, so I have my specific goals that I've taken my goal and I've broken it down into specific tasks. And I'm going to say on Monday, I'm going to do this specific task. Next week, I might do another specific task. And measuring my accomplishments and seeing if it's achievable. So is it realistic? Is it achievable? Measurement. When I get to the end of the week and I look back, have I accomplished what I wanted to accomplish in the time frame that I wanted to accomplish it? Was I able to accomplish that? And if I was, can I stick to this? So it's like a trial and error, if you're understanding. A trial and error of, if this doesn't work for me this week, then I know that the next specific goal or this specific goal that I have to redo, I can break it down to give myself more time or understanding adjust it to suit, and that helps with the balance. Scheduling self-care times. So on Friday evening, when I say work is done, work is done. I'm not going to keep pushing off, but I still have this to do. I still have more to do. There will always be more to do. So we need to just stop and put ourselves first. As people say often, if you pass away, they'll find somebody to replace you. So you have to schedule while being respectful of all your job goals, all the things that your boss requires, and your job description. You fill that out and you're doing what you need to do. Then you have to put yourself at the top, because if you don't put yourself at the top, there's no one to fill out those tasks, those roles. There's no one to do that. I mean, in your lifetime, if you pass away, somebody will replace you to do it. But for you, if you don't put yourself first, there won't be any energy. That's what I want to say. There won't be any energy to then complete the task, and you won't be succeeding the way that you want to. So slowing down is a personal thing. It's a accountability thing. If I know that I have set Friday to relax, to not do anything, when Friday comes, no matter what is happening, I need to stop. That's how you get yourself to not. I mean, it's hard emotionally and mentally, because you're like, but, but, but reminding yourself that you are a top priority. So using the SMART goals, balancing with self-care, with planning and time management is the answer to that question. Can you trick your body into thinking it's getting rest if you have a high functioning life and almost everything is a priority? Um, well, if you can't fall asleep, even if you go to bed early, I'm going to put those two together. Yes, you can trick your body into thinking. Well, no. All right, let me stop. So you can put on the music. Like, there is something called progressive muscle relaxation. It's a type of relaxation technique that focuses on kind of like, I'll explain it like counting sheep, but instead of counting sheep, it's you're focusing on different parts of your body. So you will squeeze really tightly and then you'll release. It's better to listen to it, a guided progressive muscle relaxation, than my explanation of it. Like, doing it yourself, you're going to be too conscious thinking about each thing. But when you just listen to someone saying, okay, squeeze your eyes really tight and now relax, it's showing you, okay, I was feeling pressure in my head. Let me actively try to release some of this pressure. So doing techniques like that, which I would advise being guided by a professional, but like one-on-one, because I can't really do that one-on-one with you, or listening to music, or setting your routine. Romancing yourself can help you with the going to bed. If you have done all of those things and you still can't go to bed, there might be something else that you need to look into, like health-wise, as to why I'm not sleeping. But with that, seeking professional help, if you've tried all the things by yourself, would be recommended. And can I trick my body into thinking it's getting rest? The reason why I was saying yes and no. No, because what it sounds like is you're trying to finesse your body into thinking that it could do more than it can. And with our spoons, and what we're giving, the energy that we're given at the beginning of the day is the energy that we're given at the beginning of the day. finessing and trying to convince our body that we have more energy than we actually have is using the reserves from another day. If you were here for the spoon theory, that should make sense. But if you continue to borrow spoons from another day, that's how you can finesse your body into thinking that you have more rest. However, that will lead to burnout and you will crash eventually. You can't really trick rest. Like, you can't pretend that you've rested when you haven't rested. Almost everything is a priority. We have to reevaluate our priorities in this day and age because a lot more people are dying because they're putting work and other things that are actually not essential above themselves and their self-care. And I think as a society, if we take a stand to that, we will get those standards lowered because they're just getting built up higher and higher and higher. And we need to realize I'm burning myself out. I'm killing myself. We're killing ourselves if we just keep pushing and pushing and pushing. So if we actually look at our priority lists, there are some things that we can take out. There are some things that can be lower in the list. We don't want to admit it and we don't want to adjust because we think that we have to fit everything in, but be gracious and self-compassionate and give yourself the time, because if you don't give yourself the time, no one else is going to give yourself the time. You spoke about saying no and setting boundaries. I have a difficult time doing so sometimes. How do I do it without offending others? So there is this glass square that I have in my office, and it says things I can control versus things I cannot control. I can't control what anybody else feels. I can't control how they react. I can't control what they do, say, or feel. So stop worrying about what offends other people. As a people pleaser, I have to keep telling myself that. As someone who doesn't like confrontation, I have to tell myself that. You have to say no for yourself. The more you say no, as in the more you set your boundaries, the easier it will be to keep your boundaries. And also, what we have to learn with boundaries is that boundaries have consequences. So when we think about boundaries, I'll explain it in, if you're saying, no, I don't want to have this conversation with you, and the person disrespects the boundary and they keep talking about whatever it is. When we're failing to set boundaries, we don't follow through with the consequence, and then people will just walk all over you. If I say, no, I don't want to have this conversation. No, I don't want to do this thing. No, I don't want to go this place. Follow through with your consequence of the no. So if I'm saying, no, I don't want to have this conversation and this person keeps talking to me, I'm going to remove myself from this situation. And you can try to apply that to these boundaries that you're setting with people. If someone is trying to message or call, blocking them, and they're going to get upset. They're going to be offended. They're going to say all kinds of things about you, but you have to know yourself, know your truth, know that you are doing the best that you can and that you're not the one with the issues. You set a boundary, and if you're not being respected, you have to separate yourself from that person because they're not respecting you, and you should hold respect to a high regard. I think that answers that. What if you still, I haven't been reading names, sorry. What if you still feel uneasy after completing tasks? Is that because you feel like if you haven't completed it to your full potential? If it's because you feel like if you haven't completed it to your full potential, why are you not completing it to your full potential? If you have given all of the energy that you possibly can to that task, in that moment, then reassuring yourself and being self-compassionate, even as simple as that sounds, it's very hard sometimes to be compassionate with yourself because it can feel like if you're not doing enough, and that usually comes when you're comparing yourself to other people. And don't compare yourself to other people. Compare yourself to be the best version of yourself. So, oh, that actually goes with the how do you manage perfectionist tendencies? I will struggle to answer this one because I am definitely a perfectionist in many aspects. And it's very hard for me to not be a perfectionist, but it's also the self-compassion and giving yourself grace. I find that an actual task that helps with that is when I write down and process. So I tend to beat myself up a lot. And recently I've been trying to write down the negative thoughts that I've been having. And then when I'm reading them back to myself, asking myself if that's a true thing or not, or if that's just me being negative towards myself. So if I have, that can also tie with the question about completing tasks and feeling uneasy. So yesterday I felt like if I did nothing, but then when I wrote down all the things that I did, I had a very high functioning day. Even though I was exhausted throughout the day, I did a lot of things. And in that processing and writing down and visually seeing what I had done, I was able to say, wow, I'm so proud of myself that I was able to complete those tasks. And telling yourself that you're proud of yourself is a good way to manage the perfectionism. I feel like if perfectionism can manifest sometimes because we feel like if we haven't heard the thank you or the you're doing a good job, and you don't always have to look for that outside. You can do that for yourself to say, I'm doing great. I'm doing good. And even on the days when it doesn't always feel like that, lie to yourself because you probably are doing great and you're just being negative. Saying no says a lot about a person's mindset of and self-awareness. Yes, most people don't like to hear no because they expect everything to be on their terms. Very true. A firm no followed up by a responsible explanation goes a long way in general. Yes, I do agree with that, especially the following up with the explanation. You can, no is a full sentence, first of all. No is a complete sentence. You don't have to explain anything to anyone. However, with relationships that you value, it's good to, so like if it's a partner or a friend, explaining to them why you are saying no, why you're having that boundary, why you're saying that this isn't for me, can give them some insight. But also be mindful that if they don't take the no after you've given the explanation, you don't have to explain anymore. You don't have to keep going because you don't owe them anything. What if my kids are stressing me? Kids will always stress you. That's their job. Um, yep. Uh, I think that's all the questions that we have so far. Do you have any questions?
I have
Valerie?
one. Yeah, I
Oh,
do. I have one.
okay.
I have a couple for you. I was just giving pause to make sure that we weren't interrupting somebody else's burning need to ask one. Well, one, because we talk about, I think it's important for us to be able to differentiate what is normal stress, because, as you said, stress can be a natural response and can be helpful, but how do we know when it's something more serious like anxiety or burnout? Because sometimes the stress is piling. I mean, I don't know how everybody feels, but we may not necessarily be processing it the way we should. So then, all of a sudden, people go into a depressed state or have some other, mental issue. So is there a way that we can tell when we're getting to a point where maybe we should be seeking help?
I would say when it's a good stress, when you're finished the task, when you've completed what you need to do, there will be a feeling of accomplishment almost. So even with the question that Dale, I hope I Delonde, I don't want to
Mhm.
butcher your name. I hope like that question about feeling uneasy after completing tasks. If you
Mhm.
know that you've given your all and you have successfully completed, or at least successfully to an extent, so you've actually done something, the task has been done,
Mhm.
and you're still thinking about it, that's when, and you're continuously worrying about it, continuously replaying the past of things that you've done. That's when it's anxiety, and when it uh, involves fear and dread about tasks. So if you were asked to do it again and you were thinking, oh, I didn't do a good job last time, even if no one said that to you, and you were obsessing about it, it is, and obsessing is at different levels.
Mhm.
But I think that's when you have to reevaluate, and it's not a healthy amount of stress because, as we said at the beginning, healthy amounts of stress are to motivate and to increase performance. When you start seeing that your performance is decreasing and you're getting to like detached state from your life, detached from your life. So starting to feel displeasure, like finding that things aren't bringing you as much joy, that you're just getting more tired, more exhausted, and you don't want to go through life, then that's when you need to start seeking help, because that's the signs of depression. Um,
Mhm.
I hope that answered your question.
Yeah, definitely was quite helpful, giving me some food for thought. Because again, we work in a organization. We have different staff. You have any tips for how organizations, employers can create healthier, maybe less stressful work environments?
Um, this one is a loaded answer. I think that education on the part of people who are to deal with issues. So, whether that might be human resources or mental health resources, like those people who are dealing with those issues have to be sensitized to hearing people's issues. I know that in the Caribbean, there's a lot of gossip and taking people's information. So, people don't want to communicate because they feel as though it's going to be shared amongst the rest of the staff. So education on their parts and making sure that they follow the stricter guidelines to not share, so that then we can promote open conversation and open communication where employees can feel more comfortable talking, and employers creating healthy boundaries for work-life balance. So not asking for more than what is required of the person, not overloading them and hiring the amount of staff that they need to hire instead of making people do 3 and 4 jobs. I think that would be a way for the workplace to be a healthier place in terms of stress.
Mhm. And another question I have for you is, for persons, you're seeing somebody in your environment. It could be a friend, it could be a colleague, and it feels like they're struggling. What's a good way to be able to kind of I guess approach the conversation to see if you can get them to a point where they maybe can seek additional help?
Um, I think that if you see someone struggling, knowing that you're like letting them know that you're there, like opening up to them a little bit. So if you don't feel comfortable sharing, um, maybe notify somebody who might be a little bit more comfortable sharing with that person, but lending a hand. making yourself a little bit more vulnerable for that person. To say, okay, I experience some of these things sometimes, and I noticed that you were experiencing something similar, and it's not coming from judgment. It's not coming, so like expressing that you're not trying to judge them, you're not trying to back them into a corner, but just trying to be friendly, trying to be genuine. And also, which goes with what I was saying previously about the HR and stuff, like letting them know that there are resources for them to use. And even if they want to do it outside of their company, if you're just a friend, saying that there's no shame in talking to somebody, no one has to know. So at the beginning of counseling sessions, we'll tell you that everything is confidential and we are not allowed to talk about what happens in the sessions. If you see us outside, technically, we're not even allowed to really approach you. You kind of have to approach us because it's confidential. If I walk up to you, then someone might ask, okay, so why are you talking to that person? And then that might force you into a corner of saying, oh, that's my therapist. So ethically, we try not to approach people, and unless you approach us and give you the opportunity. And I don't think a lot of people know that about the confidentiality. I know that some people feel as though they like their information will be shared and they don't trust, but taking a leap of faith that if you do trust in a therapist, a counselor, our job is to hold on to that information without judgment and to be a helping hand for someone. So sharing information about therapy, sharing sometimes personal information about yourselves can help people to get help. Isn't
Well,
it
thank
kind
you.
of oh, there are two more questions. Sorry, I was
Yeah, I
really
was I was gonna point it out. So you're ahead of me. So go ahead.
um what bodily signals should prompt you urgently to pump brakes on whatever you're doing? Any tips for quickly managing heightened stress or panic in a given moment? Um, increased heart rate, headaches, shaking, trembling, um, heart, so feeling dizzy, blurry vision, shortness of breath. Those to me are signs that you are feeling stress and panic. I usually recommend to my clients to do 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So 5 things that you can see, 4 things that you can hear, 3 things that you can touch, 2 things that you can smell, and 1 thing that you can taste. That's a grounding exercise to keep you, to like bring you back to the moment. The one thing that you could taste could be water. Um, sometimes if you have anxiety, eating sour candy has previously helped me. Like it brings you back. So something that's like a sharp taste will bring you back into your reality. The 5 things that you can see around you is just to remember your surroundings, especially if something that has triggered you makes you feel like if you're not in the moment. The 4 things that you can hear also brings you back to the moment. Touching, when you feel things, you can describe what they feel like. It distracts you from what you were previously thinking about. Being able to compare what things feel like can also help. So this feels smooth. This feels smooth as well, but it feels soft. Um, so doing grounding, some meditation, listening to music can also help soothe you. But yeah, drinking water, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, meditation, those are brief things. Is it kind of stressful hearing a lot of people's problems? Oh, wait, is upper back pain a sign? Yes. Any physical ailments are pretty much signs of stress. Stress can manifest in multiple ways. Does stress cause neck aches and tense shoulders? Yes. Um, if it's unusual for you, if it's not something that you're accustomed to have when you're healthy and your body is at its peak and you don't have those symptoms, it can be a sign of stress. So, yes, all the tenseness, all the pain, headaches, all of those can be signs of stress. They will manifest in everyone's bodies differently.
Right. Simone, okay, I think you broke up a little bit, at least on my end. I don't know
Oh,
if that
sorry. What was the last thing that you heard me say?
when you were speaking to the different physical ailments that can be
Uh-huh.
indicative of stress.
If if when you're healthy, you're not feeling those things and then they pop up, they can be indicators of stress. They manifest in different ways for different people. So there are a variety of symptoms and a bit too many for me to list. Um, but if it's uncommon for you, then I would say, yes, it could be a sign of stress. Isn't it kind of
Mhm.
stressful hearing a lot of people's problems? Yes. And I have my own therapy that I do to de-stress and release problems. And if you're talking about it from being a helping hand for another person, if you don't have the space or the energy to help someone, sending them to someone else who can help them is the best thing that you can do. Don't try to take on extra if you don't have the energy to take on extra. Don't sit and try to listen to people's problems if you can't. That is only adding to your own stress. And saying, I'm sorry, I hear that you're struggling and that you're going through something, but I am unable to handle that at this moment is always a viable option. People don't like to hear that because they feel vulnerable when they are reaching out to people, but you're also not obligated to take it on. So that's a boundary that you have to set for yourself, and that person would have to manage their expectations and saying, okay, maybe at another time I can be there for you, but right now I'm exhausted or I can't. So, like how we were saying earlier, no, but with an explanation if you would like to keep that relationship flowing. Sometimes you don't realize that you're clenching your jaw, tensing shoulders, breathing shallow. What's a good way to periodically check in with yourself? Setting reminders. Just like how you would set a reminder for water, set a reminder to just um like how I said earlier, the progressive muscle relaxation isn't only to help you sleep. Checking in with, am I feeling pain in my head right now? Am I feeling pain in my shoulders right now? Doing a physical body scan of where you're feeling that pain, where you're feeling tense, and doing grounding techniques like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, drinking some water, taking a walk, listening to some music. All of those things can take a few minutes to just recenter yourself.
Well, thank you very much for that, Simone. I'm giving everybody another few seconds to see if anybody else has any burning questions. Feels like we have answered all the questions for this evening. I'm slow talking so that if you had something brewing, you have another chance to, to get it in before. Well, I think it looks like, Simone, that's a wrap. So there's nothing left for me to do other than to release extend a sincere and heartfelt thank you to you, Simone, for sharing some great insights on stress and how we can cope more effectively with it. Your definition of stress, what it is, how it affects us. That was very enlightening and quite useful. Spoon theory was also a really powerful way, to really help us understand our energy levels and, mental well-being and how that impacts in our daily lives. And
Mhm.
I certainly personally will be trying to apply your 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 technique, because that definitely sounds like something that can be quite useful in terms of managing, I guess, day-to-day stresses. In terms of our lovely audience here today, I want to sincerely thank each of you for joining us, and we really truly hope this conversation has given you, some, insights and tools to help you better manage stress and take care of your mental health. And I guess if I really want to leave you with a tip, I want you to remember that small changes can really make a big difference. We don't take into account sometimes, we think that it's just something little, but you'd be amazed at how when we kind of, continue to build on that, how much better we feel and how much more, how better functioning and productive we can be out of that. Um, Now, I was remiss. I'm smiling because I didn't make a plug for the credit union, but just wanted to just let you know, really for your benefit. But we currently have a limited time term deposit offer available to you. And so, if like me, you are trying to build those coffers and work on your savings, this is a great low risk investment opportunity. And but you can sign up for a term deposit at our credit union. Right now, we're offering an interest rate of up to 4%. The minimum balance is $1,000 for a minimum fixed term of 2 years. And so I know for those of you who may know a little bit about finance, that is an excellent return on investment. And so if you're interested, you can certainly contact any of us at Affinity Plus Credit Union. You can go to our website, you can sign up. You just go to our savings page and click on term deposits. And we actually have a contact us form. So you can complete that and we can have somebody reach out to you. And you can also email us at operations@affinityplusbb.com. And I'm going to ask one of my team members to just, drop that email address in the chat for anybody who might be interested. But other than that, what I also want to encourage you to do is to please stay connected with us. At the beginning of the session, I just say that I will share how you can follow and connect with us. So let me do that. We are currently on Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, YouTube, TikTok, and we've now also recently joined Threads, and you can find us on all those channels at Affinity Plus BB. You can also go to our website, and we made it easier for you. Everything's the same, so you can go up to affinityplusbb.com to learn more about our wider range of products and services, and stay connected because we host these sessions. They're part of our Smart Choices webinar series, and so that's the way that you can stay connected to see if any of the upcoming sessions that we're going to have are going to be of interest to you. So once again, thank you so much, Simone, for your time and expertise. It really was a impactful session. And to you, our audience, just stay well, take care, and we hope to see you at our next event. So if nothing left to be said, ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of the Affinity Plus Credit Union, I wish everybody a good night.
Yes. Oh, also follow the podcast.
Yes,
Thanks.
Simone, go ahead. Go please follow Simone's podcast. Simone, what you can do is just let them know what the name of the podcast is again and where they can find it.
I don't know which side it is for you guys, but it should be behind me. We need to talk PCSB, but I left a link in the chat for anyone who wants to click. I have similar discussions. Obviously, keep watching these webinars that are hosted by Affinity Plus, but if you want to see me specifically, I do talk about different topics, mental health things with the podcast. So, or if you personally want to reach out and have a chat, the email address or the phone number is there for you guys.